Foreign Minister Penny Wong met with her Chinese counterpart Wang Yi this week on the sidelines of the G20 in Bali. Minister Wong described the meeting as an important first step towards stabilising relationships between China and Australia. One of the issues brought forward was the detention of Australians in Chinese jails or detention, including Cheng Lei and Dr. Hengjun, who are accused of spying. Joining me live is Dr. Kylie Moore-Gilbert, author and academic who spent 804 days in an Iranian prison falsely accused of espionage. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me on.
So, following talks with Minister Wong's Chinese counterpart Wang Yi, Penny Wong wrote in a statement that they spoke frankly and listened carefully to each other's priorities and concerns. What are your thoughts on how the Albanese government is dealing with this situation?
So I read Senator Wong's statement and it was, quite light on detail, although that could be quite expected, really, given the sensitivity of this meeting. I was heartened, however, to see that she mentioned Cheng Lei and Hengjun by name. And I think this is really important. This is the second high-level communication that Australia has had with any Chinese official in years, the first having come a few weeks earlier with the Deputy Prime Minister Richard Marles. And this is the first time that Australia's Foreign Minister has met their Chinese counterpart in a really, really long time, since China essentially put us in the deep freeze diplomatically. So the fact that Penny Wong was able to raise Cheng Lei and Hengjun's cases to Australians who are arbitrarily detained in China, who are essentially political hostages, and whose detention coincided with this freezing of relations between Australia and China, I think it's really significant. And I really, really hope that it indicates that behind the scenes, the Albanese government is actually, putting in a lot of legwork and looking to secure their freedom.
Former Prime Minister John Howard has joined a number of prominent politicians, journalists, activists in signing an open letter to the Chinese government calling for the release of Cheng Lei. How hard is it for groups to lobby for people in these types of situations? And do we need to do more, like perhaps add sanctions to help fund organisations like Amnesty?
I think it is really, really hard to get your loved one's name out there when somebody is initially arrested. And having this list of prominent Australians from across the aisle, from Liberal and Labor parties, from prominent media personalities and beyond, prominent academics, it really does make a big difference. We have some, towering names of Australian politics, from former Prime Minister John Howard to Alexander Downer to Gareth Evans, and current sitting MPs like Peter Khalil, who's been quite consistent in advocating for Australians detained abroad, and James Patterson too, I believe. And this really does make a difference, because getting the message out there and having Cheng Lei and others' detention sort of rise above the din and the noise of everything else that's going on in Canberra and everything else that's in the headlines, it's really difficult. So I'm really, really happy to see that so many prominent Australians have signed this letter from all walks of life and all streams of politics. I don't think that sanctioning China at this point would be productive. I think we're seeing something of a rapprochement between Australia and China, or at least we hope we're seeing the beginnings of that. And I think one easy thing that China could do as a fig leaf gesture to reach out to Australia and show that they want to improve relations is to release these two wrongfully imprisoned Australians. Hengjun is a democracy activist and writer, and Cheng Lei is a journalist, and both are Australian citizens. We need to bring them home. And this is very low consequence for the Chinese regime, some sort of gesture they could make to show that they're interested and serious about improving relations with Australia.
Minister Wong and the high-profile dignitaries noted that Cheng Lei is also a mother of two. What kind of an impact do you think could mentioning Lei's personal family situation have on her case?
Well, we need to appeal to the Chinese on, from the means of diplomacy, from the means of justice, but also appeal to their humanitarian side. Cheng Lei has two young children here in Melbourne. They're living here without their mother. They haven't even spoken to their mother for almost 2 years, for the entire duration of her incarceration. August 13, I believe, will be the 2-year anniversary of Lei's disappearance and arrest. And these poor children have not even had word of their mother since then. I think appealing to the humanitarian instincts of the Chinese regime is a good idea. Hopefully they will show clemency and they will recognise that these 2 children desperately need their mother, and they will release her and allow her to return home to Australia.
There is a 99% conviction rate in China. Cheng Lei is still waiting to hear the outcome of her trial. In your opinion, how would that uncertainty be making her feel?
Honestly, it's a form of psychological torture. Being stuck in limbo, not knowing. Obviously, she would expect to be convicted, but the fact that the Chinese courts haven't issued a verdict in so many months is really quite strange. And she would be second-guessing herself and wondering what's going on, if some sort of diplomatic dance is happening behind the scenes to prevent a conviction, or perhaps see a pardon, or perhaps see her quietly released. Another side of her might just want the axe to fall and to be put out of her misery and to know what her sentence or her verdict actually will be. So it really is part of the psychological torture of the whole experience. And I was in a similar situation during my incarceration in Iran. I was waiting months to finish the court process once it had started and to receive a verdict. And from my perspective, at least, I actually preferred just to know and to get on with it rather than be kept in this state of limbo like she is now.
Dr. Kylie Moore-Gilbert, it's just so hard to comprehend. You were detained for 804 days. What strategies did you use to keep yourself mentally and physically well?
It's almost impossible, really. I mean, for me, the most important thing was human contact. When I had cellmates, when I had people I could make friends with, it was much easier to pass the time. I know that Lei was in solitary confinement, but now she does have cellmates. I know the Australian Embassy has been able to deliver books to her and letters and messages from friends. And, that actually has a huge impact and carries a lot of weight for the prisoner when they're able to have those little snippets of contact with the outside world and messages from friends and family and loved ones. I know that she's been doing yoga in her cell, which amused me a little. I remember myself terribly, doing absolutely shocking attempts at yoga in my little cell as well. But keeping as fit and active as you can is also really important. And just maintaining hope, messages of hope from the public, the knowledge that she's not alone, the knowledge that the Australian public stand behind her, that we're all calling for her release. I hope she'll be heartened by these messages of support and letters from prominent Australians calling for her to be freed. This kind of thing really also makes a really big difference to her psychological state and ability to hold on to hope and keep in her mind that one day she will be free and be allowed to return home.
Yeah, let's hope so. Well, as always, we really appreciate you giving your opinions and also sharing your personal story. Dr. Kylie Moore-Gilbert, thank you so much.